Well, Spurs did OK against Southampton. They went 1-0 down, of course, and then they came back and played some excellent football. Last season, Antonio Conte was scared of Chelsea. Going back to his old club, he knew that the side couldn't play how he wanted them to play. They put in a couple of really poor performances. But you need something. I think they're going to be much better in this game against Chelsea. They played really well against Southampton with Kulusevski at the forefront of most of the good stuff that was played down that right-hand side. Kane and Song, although didn't score, linked up quite well. This is going to be a tight game because Chelsea, I don't think were outstanding against Everton. Good result, but not outstanding. Tight game.
Yeah, you could argue, couldn't you, Spurs, one of the best performances we saw from the opening weekend. How much do we read into that going into this time?
A lot. I think you want to catch, this is a perfect time to catch Chelsea. I think a lot of those issues, a lot of the issues we anticipated pre-season, you saw against Everton where those goals are going to come from. Everybody expects, I think I'm right in saying, Everton to struggle this season. Yet to take a penalty to break the deadlock between those two. And that will continue to be the concern around Chelsea, particularly now early on in the season before the transfer window closes, how they address that lack of goals. At the same time, the expectation around Spurs is high. And I think
rightly so.
Rightly so. And I think that dressing room feels that way as well, that this is a team trending very much in the right direction. And this, given is a huge game, a huge result to get that I think sets the mood for what's to come for Chelsea. This is a real test for them that they know if they pass, they know if they get 3 points, there's a real belief that not just top four, but third place is certainly in the offing.
Frank, do you think like Spurs, despite it only being really one game, have kind of got that swagger about them at the moment?
Well, you know, what we know is if they win against Chelsea, a statement will be made that they can win something or can even maybe reach the third place at least. And that's crazy because after the second day, you can make a statement for Chelsea saying, they're going to suffer, they're going to struggle this season. And Tottenham is definitely not the same team that we saw lately. But that's for sure not the same team. I think Chelsea will have to be very, very good. They want to have a chance to beat Tottenham because I think Tottenham is a much better team, much better squad than last season. That's for sure. Mentally, technically, physically, Conte make sure that they're up for a fantastic season. So Chelsea will have to do well. On the other hand, historically talking, Chelsea has always been the black cat of the Spurs. I remember at my time, I was told that Tottenham didn't win for 20 years against Chelsea. And so that's the thing that you bring over the years, over the decades, and it stays up into your head before a game. Chelsea doesn't lose quite often against Tottenham. Will it be the same story this season? I don't know. But Chelsea would have to give a lot better than the last game if they want to win against Spurs.
That's interesting, Frank, because it's a completely different side 20 years ago or whatever it may be. Surely that shouldn't affect the dressing room or the team now.
It does, and it does. And Shaka can confirm, and Robo as well, that, you can say, yeah, it's not the same squad, it's not even the same fans, and it's not even the same stadium. But when you have a black cat, you have a black cat. And I remember playing against some teams that I never won against. That was what it was, and they weren't the same players. But when you have that history against Chelsea and Tottenham, for sure, even in the dressing room, people will say, well, the coach won't say, but the press will say them, the media will say to them, the fans will put the pressure, and that's what it is. It works like that, and you cannot avoid it. And I don't say that it's going to happen, but I think if I'm on the Chelsea side, I will be confident that I can win against Spurs because it happened so many times.
Robbo, you were saying Frank is mentally weak thinking that.
As you know, Frank, I would never say that about you, Frank. Dan's trying to stir it as always. The one person that I think may be fearful is Antonio Conte. It all depends how he sets his team up. Last season against Chelsea, he was frightened of the games and he made them play defensive football, try and play on the counter-attack. It didn't work for them. He's got to know now that they're a much better side. He's trying to get out the things that he got out of his old Chelsea team, as he got out of Inter Milan, as he got out of Juventus. Now's the time to take the game by the scruff of the neck and go and win at Chelsea.
Should I ask you which teams you didn't like playing against, or is it easier to ask you which ones you liked playing against?
I can't say that there were clubs like that for me specifically, but the point that Frank is well taken, and it absolutely does ring true. The other side of that same coin is, we spoke about Real Madrid and how they fare, particularly in the Champions League. It's about a club mentality. The fans know it. The fans understand it. The players also buy into that. That's the positive side. What Frank is speaking about, again, is the other side of that very same coin. The fans know the history to it, and they bring that energy, and it feeds into the players. So even though it's a totally different club almost from 20 years ago, that atmosphere just kind of hangs over you.
You look at their team, and we've discussed it a lot, of course, going into the start of the new season, there's a big question mark, Frank, as to where the goals are going to come from. Chelsea being linked, apparently, to Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang to come in and play in that number 9 role. Is that something that you think they should push hard to get done?
Well, I don't know what Aubameyang's spirit will be. He's definitely a good striker, and he showed it in any club that he played for, Saint-Etienne, Dortmund, Arsenal. But he's getting old. But you know, when we see and I will never compare, of course, but when we see what Benzema can do, Lewandowski can do, and Ronaldo can do, you know, hopefully, you know, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang can do too. Chelsea needs somebody to score goals. I thought, you know, they will go for Ronaldo. I thought, and we talked about that, they would go because in many aspects he will bring something different to Chelsea. But they definitely need somebody to score goals, because that's where they were lacking last season and the year before, and that's where the weakened link is at Chelsea, because everywhere else it's fine, but the front line, they need somebody to score 20, 25, 30 goals a season, because all the other clubs do that, and it's a plus, definitely a plus.
Robbo?
Absolutely, they're weak in that department. You know, if you're playing Sterling up front, you know, he's a player that's got plenty of pace, he can play little 1-2s, but he's not a great finisher. And his goal record over the years hasn't been particularly good. You know, he's done well from wide areas in a top-class side. I can't see him being the centre-forward. Chelsea, if they want to challenge for the title, need to get a centre-forward. Aubameyang, he might give you 6 or 7 good games out of about 20, but that's about it.
What's your prediction, Robbo, for this game on Sunday?
I'm going to go for, hopefully, for a Spurs 2-1 victory. I love Antonio Conte, as I've said. I think he's a top-class manager. I just think he's got to be brave. And if he's brave, I think Spurs will win the game 2-1.
Wow. Robbo going against Chelsea, Frank.
Yeah, well, he can do whatever he wants. He tried to defend me in one way against you. You know, I can allow him to say something else, you know, about the result, even if I think it's wrong, because I don't see Chelsea conceding 2 goals at Stamford Bridge. So, at the worst, I see a draw. Otherwise, of course, the Blues will win.
Spurs win 2-1. I'm with Robbo.
Wow. Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week, subscribe to ESPN+.